groups, and there are some great ideas. So what you want to do is you want to steal some of these ideas when you hear them. Are we going to process that right now a little bit, share with their group? So let's go ahead and have the representative of your group share what you came up with, both for the drawing people into the church and evangelism, and then reaching out into your community, bringing the church and the community together. So I'm going to start right here with these guys right here. All right, Pastor, you're up. It's loud enough they can hear you, because they're going to steal your ideas.
She's loud.
If Brother Bill did the Socket to Dads in Albany and never got the whole church involved in bringing a pair of socks to the church, and then as an outreach, taking them out to the nursing homes and things like that.
They called it Socket to Dads. That was a great so it was a way of getting the church involved in getting socks to dads, maybe for like a Father's Day outreach. And then she said what they did is they were going to take socks and get people to give them to people in the nursing home. So the church would go out and deliver socks to people in the nursing home. A couple of great ideas. I like Socket to Dad, Socket to the nursing home, I guess. That was awesome. So terrific. Who else? You guys over here, Pastor Andrews?
Yeah.
Anybody?
If it's okay, I'd like to share some of the things
Please.
we've done that have been successful
Yeah.
over the past year. You know, we started implementing monthly missions. Some of them are big, some of them are small, some of them are take planning, some of them you can kind of throw together really quickly. We did some homeless gift boxes that we took over to the homeless shelter. They were very appreciative of that. It was those everyday items that not easily get. We do what's called a Love in Motion at a local park, and we hand out waters and cookies, do face painting, balloons. We serve lunch at Ronald McDonald House and Salvation Army. Those seem to be really well. You see a lot of the same faces there, but that's a good one to like pull the team together, and like, you know, because I found that a lot of times people will show up to help you serve.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even show up to a service, but they'll help up to help serve.
Yeah.
We've done some general helping out with another charity group, Foundation House. We did one that was called Shoplifting, where we went to a local grocery store and we bagged groceries and helped them take them to the vehicles.
Great idea.
And it's free, and the store loved us. It was like their busy day, they did Midnight Madness sale or something. Something that's worked great as an outreach that we didn't really see coming is a car wash, where instead of just washing cars, you talk to people. And, you know, everybody wears a shirt and stuff like that, and it's been great. So we did a jail ministry with some prayer packs as well. But now we're looking at expanding a couple of them. We did a chili cook-off last year that was very successful. I was just really doing it with the church, but people invited people. Who'd have thought?
Awesome.
And so this year we're going to expand on that and try to capitalize on some momentum there.
Excellent.
And send out touch cards, and I'd like to get it to a place where we're actually giving to a charity from the proceeds of the chili cook-off, you know, give T-shirts away and stuff like that. And then we haven't done a BBS yet, but we do hear, you know, the success that others have, so we're going to look at that.
Awesome.
And then with the services, we talked about going back to an old school thing that pack a pew, you know, that seems to work sometimes.
Yeah.
And then we tossed around the Western New Jersey team thing that you guys said worked well for you, and then one of our team members come up with this that like a community give back or community thank you. You know, you do pastor appreciation, you do Mother's Day, Mother's Appreciation, you do Father's Appreciation, but actually like give back to the community, and then try to get a special speaker that maybe has some influence in the community. You know, deputy sheriff or you know, alderman or something like that. Make some contacts there and try to
Great ideas.
bring, you know, market those things as well.
Hopefully you guys stole some of those ideas, because those are really good. You know, part of the whole process is there's nothing you can't do. It's just being able to create it and then develop a team to help fulfill it. Too often we create it in our head and we're all geeked up about it, but no one else knows about it. And that's where we not have to write it down, but we actually have to mobilize. Include people, the ordinary people, in things that will help, as Pastor Wayman said, They want to be part of that creative process. They want to be part of it. Excellent, very good. I know one of the things that, again, we did is we took $10 gift cards from the gas station and took teams of the gas stations where we gave out $10 gift cards. And every time we gave out a $10 gift card, many people not only were appreciative, but some people said, well, I'm not taking that. I don't need the $10. So we said, okay. But then they came back and donated $100. They said, go buy 10 more cards and give them away to somebody else. And so just a way, again, to get your church connected to the community. And now people are saying, well, that church down there, they're the ones who give out the gas cards. You know, it was just kind of a cool way to do it. Pastor Scott, you guys, your team over there?
We didn't discuss, we were getting caught up from yesterday, but I can share, I guess, two things we have in the immediate future. Beginning tomorrow, actually, we were waiting for everyone from the district to leave.
Yes.
That'll happen about noon.
We are having, instead of a yard sale, it's basically going to be a yard giveaway to the community. We're having the churches bring out, well, anything you see at a yard sale. It's going to be right here. Of course, our location requires the young people out by the road with balloons and banners and stuff like that. But they'll be able to get free clothes, free appliances, free anything, bikes, whatever folks are bringing. And that event's going to take place on June 3rd, and our homecoming's June the 4th. So hopefully there'll be an opportunity there, you know, as we're just, you know, blessing the community with just the, hey, here, come get it. You know, folks need stuff, and we're in a place where we're at where there's certainly some folks in need in our area.
Yeah.
The second most immediate thing will be happening more toward the end of the summer. We're having our, which was instituted last year by our new children's church leaders, just Valentine, was our National School Bash. We have Section 8 housing literally right behind the church here. And this year, in addition to the bash, they're wanting to pack some backpacks, you know, full of the school supplies and stuff like that. Just to, like I said, just to be a blessing.
Yeah.
We're not looking to make any money here. We're just looking to say, hey, listen, we love you. Lord loves you. Amen. And unto the least of these.
That's awesome. Great stuff.
Both of those are awesome.
Yeah.
That was great. And I wanted to just piggyback on that and say some of your great outreach events can build an on-ramp into your services on the weekend. So as you're thinking through doing, you know, the things that you're doing, one of the thoughts you might have is how then can I piggyback what we're doing on a Saturday or a Friday into Sunday? So if you're doing a VBS, you have VBS all week long, but you have something on Sunday that you bring the kids up, you know, you celebrate them, you give them a Bible, or you know, so that those kids want to come back on Sunday, bring their parents, because they're going to get something, you know. And so you build the on-ramp from the VBS into celebrating on Sunday on the weekend to get them there. You do the backpack thing on Saturday, and then on Sunday you're inviting the kids who are getting the backpack, because on Sunday you're gonna do a big kids, you know, ministry thrust on that weekend. Or
you could give them the backpack and then fill it on Sunday.
there you go.
Fill it.
That's exactly what I'm talking
Church will
about.
put some stuff in it.
That's right.
That's right. That's right. But it's marketing, it's 101, you know, it's incentive, dangling the carrot to get the kids back on the weekend. I mean,
Seriously.
it's perfect. That's what we're talking about, because as Pastor David's been saying, it's not just about meeting the need physically, it's about reaching them spiritually. So you've got to build an on-ramp into the church. And so those are the types of things you need to be thinking about, whether it's the chili cook-off or, you know, the shop. I love that shoplifting idea. You know, how do you parlay that into, you know, come to church on Sunday, you know?
Shoplifters welcome.
Yeah, you know, hey, bring this bag back Sunday and we'll fill it with groceries. I have some kind of way to connect it, so.
I wanted to say one more thing.
Yeah.
I got medication for my eyeballs. It's not that I don't clean my face, so if you see white stuff on it, that's what it is.
Yeah, right.
He's foaming from the eyes, not his mouth. That's good. Right over here. Right?
I think we got enough stuff to go the whole year now. 2 or 3 events turned into 52 weeks. I've been at our church since I was a teenager, and back at before we built our current building, we had homecoming every year, and we've had one since we've been in our new building, so we talked about possibly bringing homecoming back. We got a lot of people in our community that call our church home, and we've not seen them since they were a teenager.
Yeah, I've been home for a pretty good time.
So, it might be a way to promote an opportunity to come back and see, let's come together, and revisit like a family reunion type thing.
Amen.
Do a gospel singing outside. We've got, ministers in our district who are Southern Gospel, singers that have connections with large Southern Gospel groups.
Awesome.
Something like that. We have one of our biggest events is our harvest party every year. We roast a hog outside, stay up all night for that.
Awesome.
And then, we brought in blow-ups and things like that, so we want to beef it up.
Awesome.
Our little kids get excited about it, our men get excited about it, but it usually leaves someone having to clean up.
Yeah.
So that makes it, late night for those that do that. So want to make it something that everyone looks forward to,
Awesome.
not just kids.
I have a
and kids.
suggestion on that. I don't know if they have it in Dover, but what we started doing is we have a corn maze that is just right down the road, and so we take the entire church down there. So then we were able to witness it because we all wore our I Love My Church Miracle
Yeah.
Temple shirts, and we were able to minister to all the people who were already there at the corn maze. And that's where we've done ours the last couple of years. Everybody seems to, that way we don't have cleanup.
Sister Chauncey,
That'll
you've
work
been,
best.
listen, I know it's been a long time since you lived in Stewart County, but Stewart County is a corn.
Then you have the whole neighborhood
There
to
you
go
go.
through. Touch everybody in your
Okay,
community.
right here, Cliff.
One that worked, that, we had business cards, like business cards
Yeah.
typed up, and it said, you've been blessed by Country Church, and phone number and address on it. And, you go into McDonald's or one of these places and just pay for somebody's hamburger, tell the waitress, give them the card,
Awesome.
And we did that, my wife and I did that one time in Lebanon, I think it was in Lebanon, in Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
We was there having breakfast one morning, and this couple was sitting over a couple of tables from us, and so I told the waitress, I said, give me their bill and give them this card.
Awesome.
And we got up to leave before they did, and the guy raced to the front door to catch us, to thank us,
That's awesome.
breakfast and all this.
That's great.
It works, it costs you a couple dollars sometimes,
Yeah. Well, one of the important things when you think about all these great ideas, because there's been tons of great ideas, it's just not how many we do, it's making sure that we put the right amount of focus to make it the very best. Make it with excellence. You can do 50 things well, okay, but if you do a few things really, really well, it'll make all the difference. And those things people go away thinking about because it was meaningful. And the biggest thing too is ask the whys behind what we're doing. Help people know why you're doing the garage sale giveaway, why you're doing these things. Because if they know the why behind why you're doing what you're doing, then they're again part of it, and they can take ownership of it and say, that's my church. My church cares about people having socks in the nursing home. My church cares about people and reaching the people in our community that make chili or whatever it is. And that's the heart of evangelism. To love the lost, to love those outside God's family, it comes through when you do an event like it. Because we all know that lost people matter to God, they ought to matter to us, right? But when we do these events, we're saying not only do we love the whole world, but we want to let people know Christ. We want to know. And so even stoking that up, I would have at the garage sale, maybe again, you've got something that advertises the church. because you're trying to be intentional. It's one thing to take care of the poor, it's another thing if the poor knows that your church cares about the poor and that they're there. Excellent. Is there anything else?
We've done the McDonald's cards before where you buy the meals with the church and stuff on it. I've done that at our church a few times. We talked about having a community, event for a veteran ceremony.
Nice.
Set up, we're just right outside of Fort Campbell.
That's a
So,
great
you know,
outreach.
We've got a large community events that, we can outreach to. Last weekend I was at a campground where I did cowboy church, ministered at cowboy church.
Awesome.
And I met a man that, has children's ministry by using his horses. He brings his horses to the church and
Awesome.
he does his, ministry with
Great.
using his horses as an example. So, I'm looking into seeing
Awesome.
what it requires to get in.
Good, excellent. All right, last group.
For inside of our church, we, at one time had a youth takeover, children's takeover, which we would like to implement again, actually, with the idea of VBS.
Yes.
We actually have our VBS in July, and I thought the idea of bringing those children in on Sunday to
The
have
on-ramp,
a
excellent.
special recognition type
Perfect.
thing would bring the parents.
We left even the decorations up
Uh-huh.
that Sunday so that everybody could be.
And that could just be that Sunday after VBS could then be our youth takeover day.
That's awesome.
There's our other, idea for in church would be pie, instead of pie with the pastor, would be pie the pastor.
Pie the pastor.
So
There we
everybody
go.
would, everybody that brought a guest, however many guests you had, you got a pie for each guest that you bring, and then you're able to.
I'm gonna bring the church that
I'm
day.
down there.
I think everybody would like to be involved.
Yes.
How about this stuff?
You don't know what you opened up.
Okay, we're gonna have a district pie. There you go.
Sounds like we got a plan for fundraiser for youth camp.
Okay, well, these are incredible ideas, and there's just tons more when you think about collaborating as a team and just creating these opportunities that they're fun, you know, the whys behind them. And so now Dr. Raymond's going to lead us into the next session.
Thank you. Wow. I hope that you walk away today with some incredible strategies and ideas. Again, the whole purpose of what we're doing is connecting God's power to God's plan. That, and I'll just say it this way, ignorance is expensive.
That's right.
So when we can learn and grow even from one another, the discussion that we're having now, hearing the ideas that have been presented are just invaluable. They just increase the opportunities that are before you. All of these outreach ideas will keep you going for 3 years. If you try to implement them, you'll have a 3-year strategy for outreach out of all these ideas. So in this third quarter, we're going to talk about spiritual growth. This is the area of teacher. The teacher is responsible for precept upon precept, building spiritual growth in the life of the congregation and the church. We've already addressed that a little bit with the pulpit calendar idea, looking at the congregation, seeking the Lord about what it is spiritually that you can feed the congregation for the year, creating a diet, spiritual diet that flows out of your theme. But what I want to really focus on in this quarter is the idea of assimilation and retention. How do we retain our newcomers? How do we assimilate our newcomers into the life flow, the spiritual life of the church? Yesterday I talked about 3 areas. I want to reinforce them again right now. The idea of first impressions, first commitments, or first connections, and first commitments. Again, I want to say those again. First impressions, first connections and first commitments. That is the process of moving someone who's new into the spiritual growth or spiritual life of the church. So as you're strategizing with those three areas. We just break it down, we unpack it, it's this. How do I create a first impressions ministry? How do I create a first connections ministry? How do I create a first commitments ministry? How do I build an on-ramp for first-time people where they want to come back, right? They visit the church and they want to come back. You provide a good first impression. How do you get someone who's come back 2 or 3 times into connecting to the church? And last, how do you get someone who's now coming, they've come for a month or 2, 3 months, into making a commitment to get involved and serve? You see, each of those are important steps for you to take someone who walks onto the campus into serving. So let's start with the first one. First impressions has to do with your hospitality team. And I want to encourage you to think through that process. And sometimes this is an area where you have to take off your blinders and you have to almost put yourself in the shoes of a new person. Drive onto your campus, onto the parking lot, and think about, okay, how is a new person going to respond to even driving onto our campus? What I love about this church is all the signage. I love, Miracle Temple, this way, arrow, this way, arrow, that way, arrow. There's this, undying focus of, hey, we want you to know where we are, right? So they're not going to get lost when they turn onto the street. They're hopefully not going to go to the Missionary Baptist Church, right up here. They're going to come here. That is a good example. So when a person turns onto the street first time, how are they going to get to the church? Well, they've thought through that process. So then they drive onto the parking lot. They park. What happens next? They're going to get out of the car. They're going to walk up to the front door. What will that look like? Are they going to walk up to a front door that's unfamiliar and there's no one out there greeting, smiling, welcoming them, so they have to open up the door and walk into an unfamiliar place through an unfamiliar door with no kind of presence or hospitality? Or are there a couple of people or one person or somebody that's got a smiling face that's standing outside, maybe with a coffee cart or with some donuts or, Krispy Kreme? We don't have that where I am, but you have Krispy Kreme donuts right there, something that welcomes them. One of the things that we do is we have the coffee carts and they're mobile. So we just pull them out on Sunday morning and we have free coffee. We have coffee set up and donuts, and people come and they grab a donut and grab a cup of coffee, and we'll stand outside around the coffee cart and talk for a few minutes. Obviously during the winter months here you have to adapt and that kind of thing. But what is it that they see when they get out of their car? Is it completely blank? It's a blank canvas? Or are they seeing friendly faces? They walk in through the front door. What is that process like? Do they have to kind of discover where they need to go? Or is someone standing there greeting them and saying, hey, the kids ministry is right down here. If there's a family, the sanctuary is right down this hallway. So I want you to begin to think through, what does that first impressions team look like and what do they do? Because people will make up their mind in the first 2 or 3 minutes whether they like your church or not. So if you want new people to come back, you have to make a good first impression, because you only have one first impression. So what is that first impression that you give off to new people? So that's one of the things you'll be discussing today in your huddle time is first impression teams. The next area is your first connections. How do you connect people who are coming back? Because if they come back for a second time, what does that say? I'm interested in maybe being a part of this church. So if someone comes back a second time, that should set off all kinds of red flags, or not red flags, but, a sign to you that, hey, here is someone that I need to go out to coffee with, or, need to have pie with the pastor, or, here's somebody that's interested. And pastors, let me say this, that most of the time new people will come to the church in the beginning because they like you. But they'll stay because they like the people. Because your novelty will wear off.
So quick with another.
Very fast, very fast.
The first 3 months, you may be the greatest thing since sliced bread. But after 3 months, you may not preach as well as they thought you could preach, or they may not, like you as much as they thought they liked you. And so if they haven't developed relationships with other people in the church,
It is true.
or you might say something that offends them, right?
Imagine that.
So the goal is not for you to necessarily to develop a relationship with them, but it is to create a process where they can move from liking you to connecting with the people. Develop a friendship, relationship with people in the church. So what does that connection process look like? It usually needs to start, though, with a personal connection with you as pastor. That's not something that you can delegate. You can delegate, going to the hospital to someone. Someone can go to the hospital for you. It doesn't always have to be you as the pastor. I think the Bible says that, and these signs shall follow them that believe. My name you shall cast out devils, and shall speak with new tongues. You shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. It doesn't say that the pastors are doing that. It says these signs shall follow them who believe. So you can delegate that to people in the church to visit people in the hospital, or visit people in their homes, or lock up the doors of the church. Those are things other people can do. Ephesians 4:12, you're equipping the saints to do the work of the ministry. That's your ministry description. It doesn't say you're doing the work of the ministry. I'm just going to be authentic. It doesn't say you're doing it. It says your primary role is equipping others to do it. Now, you will model it. You will do it. But that's not your primary role. Your primary role is to equip others to do it. So if somebody can visit the hospital, I'm equipping them to do it. If somebody can teach a class, I want them to do it. Other people can lock up the church. So I'm equipping them to do it. The first church I pastored, first weekend I pastored, we were elected to office, 22 members. We had 4 no votes and 4 I don't know votes, or 4 blank votes. People didn't know whether they wanted us or not, and 14 yes votes. So we needed 13 yes votes. We barely squeaked in. We got 14 yes votes, right? So first, that Sunday night, they vote us in. One of the deacons walks up and he hands me the keys of the church and he says, Pastor, You know, I'm a 27-year-old kid, green behind the ears. He hands me the keys and he says, Pastor, here's the keys of the church. First night on the job, we'll let you lock up. So I took the keys of the church and I locked up the doors of the church that night. And in my mind, when he's handing me the keys, I'm thinking to myself, this will be the last time I lock up the doors of the church. Not because I can't lock up the doors of the church, but because there were 50 other people in the church who could lock up the doors of the church. And my role was to equip them to do that, not to do it. So my whole focus as a pastor became handing off everything that somebody else could do, and only holding on to what I could do myself, that nobody else could do. So nobody was going to vision cast and preach like me. That was something I could not delegate. I could delegate it sometimes, but it was a primary responsibility for me as a pastor to fill the pulpit. I could not delegate that. I could not, I'm just giving you the priority list, I could not delegate meeting with new people in the church. Because when they come, especially at the size of the church that you all have, they want to know the pastor, meet the pastor. They want to know that the pastor knows their names. Up until the church, that first church I pastored had 300 or 400 people. I knew everybody's names. You know, up until 400, I knew the kids' names. I knew the dogs' names. I knew everybody's names. But then once it moved past 400, I didn't know everybody's names. But at this stage, you should know everybody's name. You should know the kid's name, the dog's name. You should be able to, you cannot delegate meeting for coffee with people. So if somebody comes back and their second time, third time, find a way for First Connections as a pastor where either you invite those people once every quarter to coffee or to pie with the pastor or some way to connect to new people. Because as I said, if Pastor Rick, if you had 40 people as guests to the church last year, that was your potential for growth. How many of those 40 you retained minus death and transfer was your growth last year? So if you don't have a plan for new connections, your potential for growth shrinks from 40 down to, and accidental connections don't work. There has to be some plan for connectivity. So for us, we do coffee with the pastor. We do that once every 6 weeks. Invite everybody that's new to come on a Sunday night, and we do coffee with the pastor. We do, for every guest, we were known, I wish James was here, Junior was here, we were known as the Pie Church. If somebody came for the first time to our church, we would stand up. One of the main parts of the service was a connection card. We included it in the program. We would say, hey, everybody grab your program, pull out the connection card. If you're a first time, second time, third time guest, we want you to fill this card out. If you'll fill it out and let us know, a little bit about you and put it in the offering, we will give you a pie from Marie Callender's. And so now we're doing Chick-fil-A gift cards for a Chick-fil-A sandwich. But if you'll fill out this card, stick it in the offering, we'll give you a gift card to get a Chick-fil-A sandwich. They put the gift card in the offering, and now we've got a wealth of information so that there can be follow-up with these people, especially the ones who are second-time, third-time guests, because now as a pastor, I can email or call personally and say, hey, I noticed you've been coming 2 or 3 times. Would you like to meet for coffee? And so there's a connection point there that can help. And then, of course, once they start coming, it's connecting them to a small group, a circle, or some way of serving, and we do that through our newcomers class. Those are some ideas. Questions on that before we break out into our huddle times and talk about it a little more?
Here's where the nuts and bolts comes in for me on the connections, like how do you get that? I mean, I know you're getting high spots on it, but how do you actually get a team together that will do that stuff and follow, I mean, you know, just, it seems that, I'll just leave it there.
No, that's great. Great question. You do have to develop kind of a hospitality team or a first impressions team or a group of people who are really good in the church about relational connections. Just like you would on the congregational care side, if you're trying to develop hospital visitation or something like that, you have to pick those people out and equip them and develop them and release them to start doing visitation. You have to do the same thing with this group. Initially, you'll probably want to start it with your core team, your core leaders, your pastoral staff, because that has to be modeled so that they're involved in the newcomer process. And it becomes a real focus for you and your team. If it becomes a focus there, it'll filter down to the rest of the congregation. We've all been there. I've visited churches where I'll walk in and I'll sit down and just watch and observe what people do. I've gone to churches where I've walked in, they didn't know I was the special speaker. I would sit down and nobody would even come up and shake my hand or greet me. Here I was a new face, a new person, and I was invisible. You know, a couple of years ago I went to a church and they had a couple of ladies standing at the front door with programs. And so my wife Kimberly and I, we walked in. The two ladies were talking to one another. They didn't even pay any attention to us. There were programs on the table, so I reached down to pick up a program, and I picked it up, and one of the ladies whirled around and said, "What are you doing? Why did you grab that program?" And she took it from me. And I thought, you know, here's your first impressions. You know, team, obviously these are not the ladies that you want out there. You know, they were controlling the program.
At least she didn't slap your hand, you know, it could have been worse.
I know. It was kind of interesting when they finally realized we were the special speakers. You know, that was kind of an interesting aha moment. But, you know, it's those types of things that you know, you'll have to hand pick in the beginning, using your core team and creating the atmosphere of what you want, and which will mean, you know, whether you probably need to incorporate that in your huddle with your key leaders if you're doing that weekly or every other week, where that becomes a main topic of conversation. How are we doing with first impressions, first connections, and eventually first commitments, and talk through that process. You're going to have a couple of people emerge that can probably take the leadership and the direction on that, make sure that's happening for you. You don't want to have to worry about that on Sunday. You want to be able to walk out and greet people and do that kind of thing without worrying about what's happening outside the front door, and, you know, how are the kids being checked in, which is another huge area when it comes to first impressions. You have a new family, what's the kids' check-in process like?
I mean, that, one of the things I learned from the Air Force
Yes.
was, you know, taking care of your people. That I had gone to Okinawa and I didn't intend to stay for 3 years. I went over there intended to stay for 18 months. But after I got over there and got involved in starting a church on Okinawa that I called and had my wife come. At that time, we had 3 kids. She was in Oregon, and so the Air Force assigned to her an individual that was a military man that was going to Okinawa to help her with those 3 kids during transfer of aircraft, getting to Okinawa and all. And that did something for me, and that, used to in church when we had new people come, especially new people that were coming to town, to assign them an individual in the church that to call them and ask them, you need me to take you to the electric company to get hooked up to power, to the water company? What can I do to help you in this transition, And so that turned out to be a good thing, because people understand, if they're new in town, they don't know where the water company's at, so that if you can help them in that respect, it's a first impression that they get.
That's a great idea, Brother Mac, to have actually your host be the person who walks them through the process. And, you might only need a couple of hosts on the weekend to do that, but you actually have someone who is outside that is that designated person when a new family comes up, and you're going to know pretty much at this point who's a part of your church and who's not, and that person then walks them through the whole process, greets them, if they have kids, helps with check-in, directs them to the sanctuary, and even becomes the person who makes the warm telephone call, not the cold email send, within 48 hours, because they helped walk that person all the way through the process. Our First Impressions team wear t-shirts that say "We Care" on the front, and on the back it says "Ask Me." And so they wear that. They stand outside when there's a new family. They're basically the designated driver, or the designated person. They take the person from the parking lot all the way through the process. And then they also become the follow-up, and that's their ministry on the weekend. It's not teaching in a class, it's meeting a new person, making that new person feel comfortable all the way through the day, and then a warm connection with them, because they know the kids' names. Hey, how did Johnny like class this week? Is there any questions that you have? So that's a really great idea to have someone appointed to do that. Yeah.
One time in our church, something we'll have to talk about. We took our map of our county and we divided our county up for our leadership team. And when that address fell into that section, that was the person that ended up being the connection for them. And if they were out of church, they were the ones that contacted them, they went to visit them. And it freed up the pastor to be able to go visit all of them, but if they couldn't take care of it, they knew they had a point of contact. This is the person they should go up to.
That's a great idea. What we're really talking about is the core of what we do as church. The last quarter was outreach. It's reaching people outside the church. This quarter is about what do you do when they come to the church. You can reach them outside the church, but when they come, are they going to come back? So, we're not trying to overwhelm you. We're just trying to help you to see what are the basics. Outreach, let's reach people outside, and then once they get here, how do we really connect them? All right, let's break up into our huddle times, have you talk through some of that, and we'll come back. Pastor David will bring the discussion.